Hello, everyone. Very good morning to everybody who is watching this in India and to our global audiences. Thank you so much for joining us in for this video. I am very, very happy and excited that we have Brinda Adige with us. She has been a guiding force to all of us. We've been working together for so long, and you can see the smile on my face. I'm always very thrilled to speak to her when for any chat that we're having. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Brinda is the director of Global Concerns India, and for us, people like us who are very young in the space, who started with this, whole intent, and we are all very charged up. It's very important that we have guidance of mentors like Brinda Adike, who can channelize the energy always in the right direction and make sure that the work that's getting done in the space leaves an impact and the right dent what we are targeting at. So thank you so much, ma'am, for connecting with us once again.
Thank you, Arnika, for all those kind words. I'm humbled.
Thank you. So this conversation is about the latest report that we released, caste hate speech in the digital society. There were thousands of social media posts that were screened, and despite all the efforts that leaders like you, organizations like yours, and many others have put in to put the point across that caste based hate speech is very contextual. You have to understand it. There's a lot of history that goes into it, there's a lot of background that goes into it, and otherwise we see words which doesn't make any sense, but to the person it is targeted at, it is very derogatory. And I think those are the gaps that we've tried and highlight in this report. So in that context, ma'am, my first question to you is that what are the most common forms of caste based abuse that we see that occur on social media platforms?
First and foremost, I think it's the very language. So there is this whole entitlement that the English language is to be understood and spoken and utilized only by that certain group of people. So it comes from that place. So if you are speaking in English, then you would find that they make remarks just because you're so good in that language. And you might have used satire, you might have used humor, you might have been witty, or just sheer outrage. And all of that is an anger that they want to portray to us because that was supposedly their domain and area. We were not supposed to get into that space. We were supposed to be with whatever a dialect if we had, or a language that we had. And we're not supposed to have walked or moved out of that boundary, because at the end of the day, it is that boundary that these people want us to be subjugated and oppressed at. That said, the educational qualifications that we might have or that we achieve and accomplish, colleges that we might go to. So all of these are there where they would make, like you mentioned, Arnika, one must know the context, because when a slur, a caste based slur and insult is used, only I will understand it, or probably you will understand it, because it is so targeted to ask, like, oh, how did you get into that college like everybody else? Yeah. So, but the whole thing is, you could not have really got a merit. You certainly, were somewhere and then you got it because of a reservation. So you're not really up to the mark, you see. So what is up to the mark? Who made that mark? Who decides what that mark is? Who decides what that ceiling is? And on what basis? So, like you mentioned, these are the various slurs. What we wear, clothes that we wear, food that we eat, the fact that we consume meat or non vegetarian food is a problem. The kinds of meat that we eat. As long as you eat a bird, it's okay. But if you go beyond a bird to a four legged creature, then you have a problem. And in that four legged, you have other problems. Then you will attach it to a religion that I might have been converted or probably my ancestors converted to. So I can't think of a single area or space, Arnika, that there is no insult, humiliation, and slur or attack. because it's every space. Because the other day there was somebody who was taunting and trolling because a few of us, the women who are against caste discrimination and our Dalits and our SC/STs and don't belong to that so-called echelons that they might call themselves to be, that we were wearing sleeveless blouse and had let our hair loose down. So you see the kind of ownership, the usurping of style, the usurping of clothing. So women like me can't wear sleeveless and we dare not leave our hair loose down. So I don't think they have left any space where they say that, okay, this is a space we will not bring any hatred, we will not cause humiliation. There is no such space. Every area just doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. The other day, somebody else was telling that Brinda is a Brahmanical name. How dare I have it? When did you usurp that name? How did you decide that it is your name? How did you decide ownership to a name? So, the question that you asked is so profound that we just can't give a straight line answer to it and say, it's A, B, C. No, it goes on because they think of all these ways for eons, for thousands of years that you have continued to oppress. You have 1,000 different ways to continue that oppression today in words, in statements, in your looks, in what you say or don't say, how you stand and you don't stand. We might do things unconsciously, but they would decide that this is not what you should be.
My God. um, I don't know what to say. I had many follow-up questions to that, but I think you've answered to many already. So I'll get to the next one. And because we mentioned context there, what do you think are the current content moderation policies that the tech platforms have? And we're talking about just the digital spaces at the moment. Do you think those are sufficient? Because as we were discussing, we screened so many, and you are, one of the known voices in the digital spaces. You must have seen that the caste-based hate speech, it prevails, and it's in millions. Like, if we want to go out and screen them, it's in millions out there. So what do you think? Are the content moderation policies still effective, or they are not really making sense? Because even when reported, action is not being taken up on any of that particularly caste-based hate speech inappropriate content.
See, first and foremost, the tech arena has not yet understood caste based hate speech. They still have a lot to learn. And for that, they must somewhere, I feel, experience that kind of harm, that kind of pain, humiliation, and insult. And that is asking too much, yes. But you must listen to people who have gone through, who are going through something like that. Like you mentioned, can all of their AIs and all of their technology recognize? No, because that AI, that technology is unable to recognize context, and context are lived experiences. And these lived experiences, no matter how much I would like to share and write a blog or spell it out, it just doesn't come with that essence to technology. And so technology doesn't really understand. How often, or not even often, let's say, how quickly would some recognition happen of such nature of hate speech? And if a report is made, how quickly is it addressed? Certainly not in the next 72 hours. Yeah. So I am very specifically saying 72 hours because my assumption is that they may address it in 72 hours. Have we seen it being addressed in 72 hours? No, it's not. So in this space, when we talk of digital space, it's like a blink of an eye. So we want to address it immediately. And what is immediate? It seems to become relative where the tech and AI is concerned. So what is relative? 3 days, 5 days, 10 days. So if there is no reaction or there is no action to some speech of this nature, automatically because of the sophisticated technology. Then the next is for human intervention to address it. But they don't even have human intervention. So when you say how quickly would they recognize, how quickly would they address this issue, I think they have not looked at it in that manner of urgency, because I'm not a tech person, but logically I'm telling myself, if the tech expert gets to know that these are the issues, these are the concerns, then are they able to build it into a logarithm and that can address something within the next 20 hours, 40 hours? I don't know. Is it difficult? Is technology not yet developed enough? Is not sophisticated enough to bring in all of those things? I don't know the technical part of it. So as a lay person, this is how I will understand that I have told the technology cannot address it, but it's already there out and it is wrong. It is a human rights violation. It's not just my country's, but it's an international violation of human rights. So when does human intervention happen? Who is responsible for it? Somebody has to be responsible. A company is responsible, a group is responsible. I don't know. But why isn't that urgency seen for that intervention?
Ma'am, now I want to comment on the existing legal framework.
Yeah.
You have been in this space for long. You've been also using digital spaces to raise voices and concerns. And this is a big community that we are a part of. So I want to comment on the existing legal framework and what do you think that does it address online caste-based abuse? Or if they are falling short anywhere, what are the gaps that you feel exist in our framework?
See, right now, we do not have laws. We don't even have sections that would address caste based hate speech or caste based online attacks. Though we do have the ministry saying that, yes, this is something we are looking at, we are addressing it. But all of that is a lot of hot air if there is no instrument of mechanism that can be utilized to register a case and for action to be taken further. So right now we don't have. We use Section 66 of the IT Act, but that Section 66 is not an all-encompassing. It itself has its own limitations. Plus, how is it understood by the law enforcer like the police to register a case? On what grounds do they register it? They will register it as whatever with the definition that is there in the law. And that definition does not include the hate speech. So then they will say, now we will file a case under the SC/ST atrocity. But the SC/ST atrocity follows a different kind of procedure. Now, in that procedure, you and I have not met face to face for you to abuse me or for me to take that abuse. If that has not happened, that particular law or its sections cannot be put into my FIR. So now we are lost. The only thing is we send it to court and then we'll see. So we are now at the mercy of the judges who will interpret it, supposedly, to see how you probably could get justice because of something that happened in virtual space. So right now, we cannot really go and seek justice. When we say, I want to seek justice, I'm looking at not a arbitrary panchayat justice. We are looking at legally procedural justice. And for this procedural justice to be attained, we don't have the laws for it.
Ma'am, what do you see can be the potentially long-term impact if this sort of caste-based abuse continues and remains unchecked on social media? How do you think that's reflecting back in the real world on the society that we're living in?
See, one is a large population, both in number and in history. We are talking of a historical ethos that we have, plus statistical number that we are, is being denied all rights, constitutional rights, human rights, and that is unacceptable. What is the next? As an individual, I would constantly be abused, put down to such an extent that I will move out of that public space. So I will not have the right to enjoy what everybody else enjoys. It could be my talents, it could be my potential, it could be my reach and my resources. All of it is cut because I am no longer there. I am so depressed. I am so sidelined. My mental health is at stake. And so also is everything else. My so called right to life is at stake, my right to employment, my right to enjoy my life with dignity, my right to live itself is threatened.
Because you mentioned that people leave that public space, and as individuals, if you have to give that one tip to somebody who is facing this sort of abuse at the moment, how can they combat online caste based abuse? What are the tips that, because leaving that public space, I mean, I understand that when you are into that sphere, when you are facing it, that at times that remains as the only options with us, and we don't want to deal with it further, and we leave that platform immediately. But can there be other ways that, can there be other tips that you can provide to individuals who, like, how do you combat it and not leave that sphere? Because again, I believe, and this is my very personal opinion, that whenever we are attacked, and whenever we are being trolled and abused across social media platform, we are leaving that space. I think we are giving in to the trolls, and this is what they're intending to. This is what they actually wanted. So what do we do? What do I do to combat it and potentially not leave that space of mine?
Yes, Arnika, thank you. I think I left my previous part of my talk at a negative spot, and no leaving that space. No leaving any space that you and I are, because that space absolutely belongs to you and to me. And don't let anybody else tell me or you otherwise. There would be a lot, like I told you, there would be a lot. People will come and tell you, oh, why are you standing here? I'm meant to be standing here. I'm standing here. Very simple. I'm meant to be sitting here. I'm meant to be here. That is my space. And that space, I have got it out of my struggle or struggles of my people. Nobody gave that as a charity to you and me. That's yours and mine as our birthright. So that's our rightful space. And that is our rightful place. So don't ever leave that space. 2, stand and fight. These are battles that we have to fight every day, every hour. And if names are called, if they slur, use insults and humiliations, keep in mind that's all they have that they can give you. You don't have to take it. And you don't dare take it. You brush it off. Because we are very strong people. If countries, societies, communities, cities, villages are there, remember it is because of us. Like I said in the beginning, we are sheer numbers. And we must not be ashamed of that. We've been pushed back for too long because of our sheer numbers. But you want to look at it from a lens of longevity, sustaining ourselves. And that hasn't happened because of somebody's charity. It's happened simply because of our perseverance and our hard work. Nobody worked for us. We did it. Call out those people. Never be afraid, no matter who it is. Because we've also been over eons pushed into a corner to say, keep silent. Because that's how good people are. Who are you to give me a good people certificate? I didn't make you that good person to give me that certificate. I decide I am good. Nobody else decides for me. My people decide, my family decide, my friends decide. People who relate with me decide I am good. Nobody else. The others are now feeling scared. We've not been so vocal, out in the open, articulate for very long. But in this short span of time, we've built for ourselves that platform, that voice, and that level of understanding, knowledge, analysis of stuff that is going around that they are scared. Years, it's taken them eons to put these systems of oppression into place. Eons where these systems continued because we went along with them. It's taken us this short span of time to realize all of this and start shattering and breaking them. So that's your space and that's my space. Don't ever give it up to anybody. Call out. And when you call out, don't be alone. Tag people along. Tag everybody along. I do that. In fact, somebody called me up and said, I'm already they have, their name is Dalits in limbo. We are already in limbo. So why did you tag me? I said, because you said you're in limbo, I tagged you. Because I also didn't know why this person asks me something like this. But just remember, you tag people. Today, we are no longer ashamed to speak out anywhere, in private space, in personal space, in political space, in public space, in any space, in space also. It doesn't matter. Because we've really given into their subscriptions, their narratives, and we don't want to give into that anymore. So you have to be so confident. Can somebody insult you if you don't get insulted? No. So it's up to me. You call me a rice bag. So I sent a Twitter back. I said, next time no. Somebody said, oh, you rice bag, we want to send you a bag of rice. I said, please do, but make it basmati. I'm planning to make mutton biryani. I have no problem. After all, at the end of the day, somebody has to eat. That rice cannot be wasted. And I have no right to waste that food, which my people grow it somewhere. Simple. So my logic, my justification, everything is positive to me and to who I belong.
Correct. This remains. This answer of yours remains the best part of the interview for me. I think I'll cut this specifically out and just try and make it right, because this is what people need to understand. We cannot leave the spaces. I know that the tech platform, the policy guys, the stakeholders, every stakeholder, we all need to work well on it. But I think we should not, and claiming that space is something that will also not really attack, but it's a potential good answer to the trolls who are out there, who think that, once they start abusing, once they start attacking us, we will leave that space and they win. I think that battle has to be tackled in a very, very different way, like you mentioned. So everybody listening to this, please go ahead and listen to this repeatedly and follow this advice. This is golden.
I just wanted to share this. When I was in class 10, I remember coming home and telling my mother, when I'd gone to this school, I said that, in this particular school, my school, I studied in a state board, but we had to go and write a competition, an essay competition in some other ICSE school. And there were some of our neighbors in that school. And after I finished the competition, I came back home and I told my mother, when I went to that school, some of these people were talking like this, and these are the kind of statements they used, and they sang some songs with this kind of a double meaning, and I'm so upset. I don't feel like going to school tomorrow. You know what she said? She said, every time somebody throws something at you, it is your responsibility to catch it, look at it, mold it, and make it your emanation. And I followed that since. So I said, okay, so I don't let it hurt me, certainly not harm me, but I would see how I can recycle it and reuse it.
Those are golden, those are platinum words for everybody listening to this. I don't want this conversation to end, but I know you have got work to do. But my last question to you here in this interview is that, as an advice to the tech platforms, to policy experts, to the law enforcement, and every authority who is responsible to handle and give more resources to users, in the digital spaces, what role can they all play, and what sort of frameworks do we expect and can be our recommendations, so that caste-based discrimination that exists on digital spaces can be combated and the users are given more free and safer and secure places?
First and foremost, it is important that elected representatives and the authorities and people in the corporate sector acknowledge that caste based hate speech, discrimination, subjugation, and oppression is real and is continuing. Don't make any excuses to sideline it. Politicians use the caste only for their votes. That apart, you need to understand if you can use caste for your votes, it is important that you consult us when you make laws and policies for us. You do not know anything about us. How can you do something without us for us? It doesn't make sense. We must be there if you're doing and saying that this is for me. Otherwise, you are doing something out of the top of your head, and we must accept it no matter how shoddy it might be. So consult with us. Consult with us at every level and at my level. When I say at my level, if you know that I am not accessible on the virtual space, your job is to ensure that you come to my geography so that the virtual space becomes even more safe. And don't say that you were not on virtual space, so I couldn't ask you about the virtual space safety measures. And I put everything that I wanted. We pay taxes to you so that you can come to us and listen to us. So do that. And you can also take the travel amount for coming to us. That also we pay taxes. To all people who are going to have some say, some investment must be party to these consultations. It can't be 2.5 people that you like or somebody else likes. It has to be every stakeholder. And when you talk of stakeholders, you do not get all of us as tokens. You need to get us for what we are worth. So if you think that the number of us is 100, a minimum of 10 of us must come. Yeah. You can't call one of us. Just because you're one of you, you can't have just you one and for us to be also one over there. So our numbers matter, and so we must be called because we come from various backgrounds with various learning and lived experiences, which must go into your policies and your laws. To the tech companies, it's going to take a long time for them to understand these things. If you are in India, then fine, you understand what is caste. But if you're not in India, for you to understand caste, it's going to take just about another 1,000 years. So that is why you want to listen to 1,000 voices today, so that you don't spend another 1,000 years trying to do something to make the space safe.
Well, I will make sure, ma'am, that this part goes to every tech platform that we can reach out to, because this is so important that they understand that why do they need to speak to leaders and organizations working in that space, because till the time you're not doing that, there is no point in having any sort of transparency policy, any sort of other community guidelines, because they are not working, they're not effective, because you haven't included the ground voices for which you were intending to work. So with this, we're going to finish the interview. And how much I say, but we really cannot thank you enough for all your time and for all your wise words and wisdom. This is, we've always looked forward to it. Always looked forward to speaking to you, your comments on the work, your comments on how should work be taken forward. This always remains very important. And I'm speaking on behalf of the whole team of Social and Media Matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Agnika. Thank you. Thank you for your kindness. Bye.